Welcome in, folks. Welcome in. Happy Friday. Happy another career glow up workshop. We are so
Right. Our
excited to have
last
all
one
of
in
you
the
here.
series. I'm so excited everybody's here. I see people joining. Thanks for being here. And
Yep.
again, as always, we are recording today's session, just so that we can be able to reference our session
Words,
afterwards.
and I
And
know that.
there are a few of you who might want to reference this back afterwards. So we're happy to have you here.
Perfect. And I see, just checking our attendees, make sure. Yeah, perfect. I see Professor Reed's classroom is here. Um, oh, and hey, Michael Martinez, how are you?
Hello, everyone. How are you? Happy to be here.
Great, great. All right, folks. Um, Welcome into our session on Money Matters. This is a direct result of listening to all of you throughout the semester, and around some of the fears, the nerves, but the excitement also, right? Around the opportunity to be in your first internship, have your first job, or just in general, take your finances more seriously. To us, that showed us that we are starting to pivot into that adulting world. And we are happy to bring you two really exciting guests that we know are going to make you feel more confident, and also, again, keep with the name of glowing you up this summer.
Exactly. And keep in mind, as you guys always do such a good job, make sure to, since again, we have transitioned to the webinar format, we
Mhm.
encourage all of our students who are here to use the chat and engage throughout the session. So why a career glow up series? So many of you I know in the room, I see Professor Eisner's classes here again. Why you're here and why we need a summer glow up. This series is designed specifically to not only expose you all to careers and mentors and real world skills, but that each session allows you to for practical tools that you can use immediately, but also so much of the work that we've done during the fall and spring semester that we had you all with us, we want to keep building on those experiences as well. So we know that so many of you have either just completed a summer internship or are gearing up for early entry careers. So that's really the focus of today's session. And the goal is really just to keep you guys feeling confident, focused, and thinking about like what's next for you.
Awesome. Thanks, folks. And just in case we have some new names and folks joining us today, we are Innovate Network. And, between Cheryl and myself, we have over 30 years helping students just like you navigate through uneven playing fields, mentorship, career prep. And just being able to navigate, right, a lot of the spaces professionally that students enter and many times do not know how to navigate, right, and don't have a safe space. So, again, as Cheryl was saying with our summer glow up, that is what Innovate Network is here to do, to fill those gaps, and make sure that our folks are entering the workforce and education and their careers with as many tools as possible.
hmm And a big part of Innovate Network is we like to hear directly from our students in terms of the overall needs and like what do you need support around. And one thing that we always hear back is like, yes, we want support getting internships and like that first job. But what does that actually mean in terms of when you actually earn your first paycheck? And that's really what today's session is about, is setting you up for success and realizing that it's about creating choices and opportunities. So whether you are a student entering into college or an internship, or you're moving into your first job, recognizing that your financial decisions and like your mindset around finances really does matter. So that's the goal today, is to help students build healthy habits, but like lifelong financial habits as well.
If I knew then what I know now, right? Like that is just the overarching theme. So again, getting to our first guest, who is representing one of our partners at Voya Financial. Again, maybe you guys have seen the commercials, the logos, or heard of Voya, but They help millions of Americans across the country, right, build that financial confidence, get information and resources. They also offer internships and scholarships and career opportunities. So an overall empower of folks taking control of their finances, like Cheryl was saying. We're really excited to have our first guest here, who is a dear friend of Innovate Network, Gordon Ward, who's a senior retirement education specialist with Voya Financial, and he holds a Doctor of Business Administration, brings that extensive knowledge of financial education, investment management. We always love to say he's also a girl dad, right, who has gotten his daughters, right, through those holes, right, of not knowing, gaining information, and then making better decisions. So we have, been able to be blessed to hear him speak to students before, and students always walk away with such great tools, and really ready advice, right, that they can instantly apply. So, Gordon, I'm going to stop sharing. Cheryl, I don't know if you noticed also our chat. We're getting all the chat
Yeah.
to our.
So I can see that too. So I can see some of the messages are coming directly to us. So for our speakers, we will just run the questions back that we're getting in the chat. For some reason, it's not going to everybody, but no worries. We'll work with what's going on.
Yep. So, folks, please help us welcome Gordon Ward.
Well, Vanna and Cheryl, thank you so much for once again having me. Always a pleasure to work with you, and I feel fortunate being one of the presenters today. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
great. So welcome to today's presentation, Clearing Your Path to Financial Confidence. A little bit about Voyager. We are one of the leading financial services companies in the nation, especially providing information on, retirement, employee benefits, and investment management. And the three key core areas of our business model. Learn a little bit more about Voya, a little bit more about me. I am a retirement education specialist with Voya Financial, and what I do is I actually conduct presentations and seminars like this to our retirement plan participants, and I am fortunate enough to be able to speak to you guys because I can't tell you how often I'll go outside and I'll finish up a meeting and someone will come up to me and say, "Man, I wish somebody talked to me about this earlier. I wish I'd started saving for my retirement earlier. I wish someone talked to me about my finances so I could get started earlier." So the fact that organizations such as, Innovative Network are partnering with Voya and your respective institutions, I think it's great because not everyone has access to these types of programs. So Innovative Network, thank you for the work that you guys are doing. Now, we talked about internships and some of the student programs. Voya, I know that we're at the end of the summer, but I think this is an excellent time for those of you that may be looking into internships to start the process now. If you're waiting until the spring before you're starting to look to your internships, a lot of times it's already too late. Now, I also want to mention that even though Voya, we focus on financial services, we look for people from backgrounds, from all types of backgrounds. We need English majors to help write some of the materials. We need engineers. We need IT people. So I don't want you to think, said, well, I'm not a business major. I'm not a finance or economics major. I don't think Voya is a place for me. That is not the case. So please look to our internship program and start applying early. We also have certain scholarships that are available to us. And once again, this is the time that you want to start looking into exploring these types of programs. So
Yes,
let's look at,
folks. Oh, real quick, Gordon, we're getting questions if we're going to share these links out. Yes, we will share these links out, folks.
yes. So let's talk about personal financial workshop. The agenda for today, at least for my section, we'll talk about budgeting tips and tools and the importance of having a budget. Talk about the importance of savings and preparing for retirement. And there may be some of you that may be like, preparing for retirement, I don't even have my first job yet. But I will tell you that as a girl dad, I had my daughter starting getting prepared for retirement before they even finished high school. And I'll share with you along those lines as how I did that. So let's talk about spending and budgeting. But before we do that, and I know that I may not be able to see the questions, but I want to kind of take the topic. What do you think that the top three categories that Gen Z, age 24 and younger, spends its money on? Another way to ask the question, what are the top three things that you spend your money on? I'll give a minute to see about getting those answers.
The overwhelming already Uber Eats. Makeup,
I'm seeing travel.
travel.
Okay. Okay. But it's a good thing that you brought up Uber Eats and makeup, and probably one of the biggest one, technology and electronics. I will tell you that as a girl dad with my youngest daughter is a college senior, we always have a discussion when the latest iPhone comes out. And she says, "Well, Dad, I need the latest phone." And I ask her, "Is there anything wrong with the one that you have?" And she says, "No." But her answer is, "But Dad, the camera." I'm like, wait a minute, this is a phone. As long as you're answering the phone and being able to text and getting the internet. But she says, Dad, it's the camera that she needs to update on it. But of course, you know who she's asking for to pay for this upgrade? Me. So we have discussions along those lines. So technology and electronics. Health and wellness was the second. We heard about, Uber Eats. So I like to put, that food into that category. So whether it's Chipotle, Cava, McDonald's, all those types of things. And then I think I did hear in that last category the makeup and the cosmetics, but the top three expenditures for individuals 25 and under. So let's talk about some budget basics vocabulary. And one of the first things to think about is a budget. And when you think about a budget is essentially a plan for your money to help you achieve your goals and dreams. And so when I think of a budget, I have to share with you, I like to bowl. And although I like to bowl, I'm not very good at it. And there is no shame in my game that when I go to a bowling alley now, there are some times that I ask or even think maybe I should have those little the bumper guards on the side so that my ball doesn't go into the gutter. This is how I think about a budget. A budget is simply bumper guards on your money. You want to make sure that your money is hitting a strike, so to speak. You want to make sure that your money is getting to the goals that you want. But if you don't have that budget, your money can kind of fall into the gutter, meaning you're not getting to where you want it to be. And so I think a budget is a kind of way to kind of put bumper guards on your money. For those of you that worked this summer, especially if you worked for your first time, you probably got a little sticker shock when you saw that first paycheck because they probably told you, "Oh, here's what you're going to be making, an hour." And then when you finally got that paycheck, you're like, "Wait a minute, what happened to the rest of my money?" Well, what they were talking to you about and what that first thing is your gross pay, and that's income before any deductions. But when they take out taxes, when they take out, Social Security, any other deductions, that's one of the things that you have from where you got your net pay. When you think about some of your expenses and some of you fixed expenses, you may not have many fixed expenses now, but as you age and take on more responsibility, fixed expenses are those that do not change from month to month. And usually, a lot of times, fixed expenses have contracts. Your rent is a contract, your mortgage is a contract, your car payment is a contract. These are type of fixed expenses. And variable expenses, well, those expenses that you have a little bit more control over. Utilities is something that it's a variable expense. Growing up, although I am a dad of three girls, growing up, I was one of three boys. And my mother used to remind myself and my two brothers that she was an educator and did not work for Con Edison because if we walked out of a room and left the light on, she's like, "Look, I do not work for Con Edison. Turn that light off and turn that TV off while the room is empty." but expenses that can change week to week that you have more control over are variable expenses. So one of the things for you to start thinking about when it comes to your money is think of your goals. And what I mean by that is think of what you'd like your money to do. And some of the goals can be short term. These may be things that can be accomplished within 1 year. So if there are those of you that are working or have an internship, yeah, maybe you might want to say to yourself, you know what, I want to upgrade my phone, and I'm going to be responsible for paying that. So this is something, if I start putting my money away, I can achieve this within 1 year. Midterm goals, goals that may take between 1 to 5 years for you to accomplish. So for those of you that may be seniors or college or even just entering into the workplace for the first time, maybe one of the goals that you may want to say to yourself is, you know what, I want to have a car. And so I know maybe when I first start working, I'm taking public transportation, but these are the types of things that will be established in 1 to 5 years. And then some long-term goals. Once again, for those of you that are, in college or getting out soon, you may be saying to yourself, "Hey, I don't want to be a renter for too long. I want to buy a house." And so maybe saving for that down payment. So when you think about putting together your budget, think about dividing it into needs, wants, and savings. Now, these numbers, 50%, 30%, 20, that's just kind of like a standard number. Your budget may be different. But when you think about things that you want to do, think about needs. These are things that are essential to what you have to do. And then you start thinking about, well, wants. What are some of the things that I want to do with my money? Shopping, maybe traveling, entertainment, and then that savings aspect, starting early for your retirement, putting together an emergency fund, anywhere between 6 to 9 months, worth of expenses, and that's why you need to have that needs category. When I think about that emergency fund, you may start out having a roommate, and there may be one time at the beginning of the month your roommate tells you, "Hey, look, I just lost my job and I'm going to be a little bit short on the rent for next month. Can you cover it?" And so those are the types of things that having that emergency fund to kind of say, "Okay, I got you, but you have to pay me back." So when you think about putting together a budget, and this could be even something that as we're at the end of the summer, you can still do. When you think of your income and think of all the expenses that you may have, maybe you were responsible for paying for your transportation to getting to and from work. Maybe there are even some things that you like to do. I can tell you that my youngest daughter is a little Starbucks princess. So she has to make sure that she's putting money away for her Starbucks. And then give every dollar our assignment. And by putting it into those needs, wants, and wishes category, you may find out that if you don't have that budget that's as much as you like at the end, maybe think about where you can make some changes. And hopefully, debt is not an issue for you now. But once again, the type of thing that you want to keep in mind to keeping your debt low. And so a couple key takeaways, budgeting is a good way to achieve your goals. Maybe start thinking, do you have some fixed expenses now? And others are a variable. The other thing that I also want to talk about, live the life you can afford. And I can say this especially for your generation. If I was standing in front of you, I would ask the question, how many of you are familiar with the expression keeping up with the Joneses? Sometimes I find people that know it, others maybe not so much. But keeping up with the Joneses is an expression to use that when people are trying to maybe expend a life that they can't afford. They're looking at what others are doing and they're trying to keep up with that. And I know your generation is more susceptible to it than mine because you have TikTokers and influencers, and everybody's walking around with the latest designer bag and talking about, vacation and sometimes maybe even doing, a fan of $100 bills that maybe the first two are real and the rest may not be, but try to kind of live you that life and you're trying to emulate or copy those. Please don't. Live the life that you can afford. So we talk about importance of savings, that emergency savings, 3 to 6 months, that sinking fund, putting money away today for maybe something that you want in the future. Maybe you might say to yourself, hey, when I graduate from college, I'm going and taking a fancy vacation, and then the regular savings, just putting some money away on a regular basis. And so, once again, thinking about these different types of accounts. Last thing I want to talk about is building wealth. And I know that maybe those of you that, maybe if you're entering the workplace are maybe going to be interested in a year or two, utilizing your workplace to help you achieve those goals. And I want you to remember the fours. Remember the fours. And remember the fours, in my opinion, is that there are different type of retirement accounts that are sponsored by your employers. 401ks that you see here are provided by employers in the private sector. 403bs are provided by employers in the nonprofit and educational sector. So if you're going to be a teacher, maybe you're joining a nonprofit organization such as Innovative Network, you're looking for a 403b. And then if you're joining the government, it's a 457 for those types of issues. So a question to ask before you accept the offer is say, do you have a retirement account? And then remembering the fours. But you don't have to wait until you retire to start saving. Remember, I told you I got my girl started in high school. And one way to get started is what's known as an IRA or an individual retirement account. It's a way that you can put money away today, saving for your retirement. And I got my girl started to a Roth IRA on the far right. A Roth IRA is an account that you put money in today and you pay the taxes on it. But when you take that money out, it comes to you income tax free, provided two conditions have been met. And those two conditions are one, the account has to be open for at least 5 years before that first distribution. And that first distribution has to come after you turn 59 and a half. So imagine when by having my girls open these accounts when they were essentially 17 and 18 years old. And I may not be around for them to say it, but I'm hoping at some point they'll say, thank you, Dad. They'll say, thank you, Dad. Because having this money that can grow with the time value of money and compounding for 40 plus years, and by getting started early, what that money could look like when the time comes. So hopefully they'll say, thank you, Dad. And so just the kind of differences, the IRAs with it being individual retirement accounts, you can start those now. You don't have to wait. And then when you get to employers, you can start thinking about and asking about the fours. A couple of the resources that I just want to leave you with. Voya has a host of tools that you can use to kind of look at and kind of increasing your knowledge on financial literacy. And that's really all that I had for now. So I want to thank you for indulging me.
Hey, awesome.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Gordon.
Gordon. We always learn so much, not just about you and your, great life that you've been able to set up for you and your daughters, right? But I have a question. How is she the Starbucks princess if I'm the Starbucks princess? That's just,
You
we
know what?
can't both do that.
I think it's regionalized by different kingdoms.
Um, Gordon, a few questions came up in the
Yes.
chat
Yeah.
as you were flipping or as you were going through your presentation. I see our class at LA City College, a couple questions came in. One is asking, what are some common financial mistakes that you often see young people make that they can easily avoid? I know you alluded to a few, but if there is like one that you had to pick or a couple that you had to pick that you want to highlight.
Sure. I think one of the major financial mistakes is waiting to get started.
Mhm.
A lot of times, especially for younger individuals, they think, well, I'm not making a lot right now, and delaying to get started. But that's where the budgeting comes in, and even kind of foregoing. I was joking about that Starbucks, but even maybe taking one or two trips to Starbucks, one or two trips to Chipotle or Kava, and saying, okay, I'm going to put $20 a month away into a savings account, and even 10. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that younger individuals make is not getting started from a saving and investing standpoint. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway. I'm not getting started early.
Perfect. And that leads to the follow-up question, which was, how much of my paycheck should I realistically be saving if I'm still in college? But you're saying that it can be $10, it can be $20. It doesn't make a difference as long as they're doing something and setting those
Yeah, as
habits.
long as and I think that's where the importance of putting the budget together, because when you put together that budget and you can start seeing, hey, what am I responsible for? But when you're subtracting your expenses from your income, that'll give you a rough idea from what the you're able to save. But another key takeaway and another key phrase that I want people to think about is paying yourself first.
Oh,
Paying yourself first, so that when you get that paycheck, you're saying, hey, before I'm even thinking about going out to eat or something else, I'm paying myself first. And that paying yourself first may be as little as $10 a pay period.
Love that.
awesome. Gordon, just and you were kind of alluding to this throughout the presentation and even in these responses, but we've got a lot of questions on credit cards, but also versus building credit, right? I think a lot of folks are aware of wanting to build credit and are getting a lot of offers, especially as a student, right?
Hmm.
But what kind of advice do you have for folks who are navigating, right, the debt of having a credit card, but also
Sure.
want to build good credit, right?
Sure. So one of the easiest ways for a person that's getting started in terms of building credit is to use what's known as a secured credit card. And a secured credit card kind of can accomplish two goals. With a secured credit card, you have to open a savings account with that financial institution, and the amount of your savings or the credit is backed by that savings account. So the way that is, for example, secured credit card might say, okay, when you establish a credit card and with a savings account of, let's say, $250, they may start you out with a credit limit of $400. And the reason why the financial institution will do it that way is that they know that they have $250 of your money that's in a savings account. So this is one of the ways about starting to use credit. And then when you're using that secured credit card, use it for things that you can pay off right away. So for example, if you're going to the movies, you can put the movie, ticket on that credit card, pay that off right away. But this way, it's a small dollar amount that you can use to build up your credit history. So small amounts. Hey, if you're going to Chipotle, McDonald's, use that card, and then before the bill even comes in, pay that amount off to kind of build up your credit. But a secured credit card is a good way to get started.
Thank you. And that answered another question. Should I pay it off right away or should I?
Yes, pay it off
Okay.
right away.
It's
Awesome.
amazing the
I
rumors that get spread, right? The lore.
Right. I think there's just so much information out there, especially like with the internet, and you hear
Yeah.
from friends who might be doing the right thing or not be doing the right thing, or family members who may know or not know. One common question that has come up as well has been around student loans and debt, around that space. A specific question was, how much student loan debt is considered manageable, I guess is the first part. And then the second part is it better to pay off my student loan debt early or make minimum payments and then try to invest? I think they're trying to toe the line between paying off student loan immediately or over time versus getting into investing as well. So just any
Good
thoughts you have
question.
around that?
Okay, so I'll tackle I think the first part, in terms of I don't think I have an answer in terms of what amount is manageable, and the reason why I say that is that depending on your financial aid will determine, hey, I had to take out this debt, but now I have the degree. And so the way that I look at it, when I look at debt, is saying, well, was this debt, did it put you into a better position in terms of getting that degree along those lines? So that's how I view student debt. When you think about the payoff, you have to think about interest and compounding. And interest can work to your betterment and it can work against you. Now, the way interest works against you is that when you have that higher balance, that outstanding balance, that's being charged interest And so, yes, you want to try to pay it down so that you're not paying more in interest than you need to, but interest works to your favor when you are investing and saving because of the time value of money and compounding. So that's where you want to try to find that balance in terms of certainly try to pay more than your student loan than you can so that you're not paying more in interest to the issuer, but also trying to find that balance. And sometimes that balance has to do with your employer. And what I mean by that is your employer, if you're fortunate that provides a retirement account that offers a match. And with the employer match, they'll say, hey, listen, we'll match you dollar for dollar up to the first 6% that you put in. So if you put in 6%, then the employer is going to give you an additional 6%. So you're putting in six, but now 12% is going into your account. If that's the case, then at a minimum, try to put in that 6% so you can get that balance. But even if your employer doesn't have an employer match, even getting started, even as little maybe as 3% per paycheck, saving for your retirement while also servicing your student loan debt.
Oh, Cheryl, you're muted.
Yeah,
Uh,
sorry. I said that makes a lot of sense. Um, I see a fun question that came in from
oh,
our LA City group asking if you had an extra $1,000 today, how would you recommend a college student use it? Again, I think they're alluding to like paying debt versus investing versus Uber Eats or just
Sure. So if it was an extra $1,000, I would invest it, and I would invest it in the S&P 500 index. And so what that does, the S&P 500 is 500 of the largest companies in the US. It's your IBM, it's your Meta, it's your Amazon, probably a lot of the household items that you have. But the key word is extra $100,000.
mm,
Because I'd want to make sure I'm servicing all my debt. But if I said, "Oh, wait a minute, I've got this maybe this one-time windfall, and I'm young," yeah, maybe putting it into the S&P 500 would be something I'd think about utilizing.
that's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And real quick, just while we're on it, I think it's also really important and we've gotten some questions, folks wanting to know a little bit more about you, Gordon. What made you decide to work in financial services? And then someone else asked, what's been your favorite part to date?
So I have to tell you that I originally went to school. I was going to be a doctor. I was going to be a medical doctor. Well, biology and chemistry kind of maybe had to made me rethink whether or not I was going to join the medical profession. And I took a class in economics. And that's where it was like, oh, that made sense to me. And so then I pursued along those lines. But I will say that I did finally accomplish a few years ago is that I got my doctorate in business administration, so I am now can be called a doctor, just a different type of doctor. What I like most about what I do is this right here. And maybe kind of instead of being a medical doctor and healing people health wise, being a doctor that can help people financially. So when someone says, "Hey, yeah, I'll do a seminar and I'll come back," and someone say, "Hey, I see my savings has increased because of you. I understand. I got out of that money market account and I see my money growing." To me, that's rewarding.
Thank you so much for saying that. What one, right? Of course, being able to give back, but two, so often we tell our students, right? Try the class, take the chance, right? Explore what you're good at, lean into those skills. And you're living proof of that. So thank you so much, Gordon.
Certainly.
Um,
Right. And
just
my apologies, Gordon. We should have been calling you Dr. Ward this whole
I
time.
know, right?
We
Listen,
haven't been
for
addressing you properly.
you guys have the friends and family introduction. I'm just Gordon to you guys, and will always be just Gordon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much,
Amazing.
Gordon, for being here with us
Certainly.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, again, we will share out those
And
links. And again, be able to hopefully bring back Gordon for a continued conversation, right? Now that you guys got this really great foundation.
Yeah. And
right.
I'm going to
Thank you
stay
so much for your
around, but I'm going to turn off my camera if that's okay.
That's awesome.
awesome. Thanks, Gordon.
You're
And
welcome.
I mean, Dr. Ward, apologies. Um, I am so excited to introduce our next guest, who's been on the line and patiently waiting to speak to all of our students today. Michael Martinez, who's joining us from Los Angeles on behalf of Merrill Lynch. Michael, I thought that Michael would be a really great speaker to connect with our students. One, because of his experience that you'll hear a little bit about, but then two, also, he has spent a lot of his career directly working with the youth as well, just as additional work that he likes to do around like advising and mentoring. So really excited to have Michael here with us, who is a graduate of Syracuse University and spent the last 12 years of experience in finance. He's been at Merrill Lynch, wealth management as a client associate. And specifically, Michael helps families invest professionally and manage money by offering solid advice that's applicable, and also has been a top performer at Merrill Lynch for a number of years. So I think very much so somebody well suited to connect with our students. But I think in my experience in terms of working with Michael is that he has been able to connect directly with students and make it a really personable experience, similar to Gordon, where I think very often for our students in this room and that we work with are oftentimes the first in their families to earn at a certain level. So being able to make the steps towards financial literacy approachable. So welcome, Michael. Thank you for being here with us this morning.
Thank
Welcome,
you,
Michael.
Cheryl and Ivana. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I always find it very exciting to speak to a group like this. I attribute all of my success to mentors. My parents didn't really have a formal education. They didn't have any experience in finance around budgeting or any of this. The only reason why I even went to college was through mentorship. I found a mentor at my high school that helped me up. She sat down with me and did the fast reform. She did the college applications with me. And if it wasn't for that, definitely wouldn't be sitting here today. But I'm excited to jump in. I'm gonna try my best to share my screen. I don't do this often, so
No
I'll,
worries. And folks, continue to use the chat as Mike gets his presentation up.
here we go.
Already some great reactions.
Hmm.
So I've never shared my screen on Zoom before. It's asking me to quit and reopen because that's a lot of permissions.
Oh,
Is that
no.
okay if I do that? Or do you prefer
Um,
to share the presentation for me?
we can share it. Yeah, we can totally share it. Give me 2 seconds.
And thanks for sending it in advance.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, while Ivana is pulling up your presentation, Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about how your career path, like how you ended up in finance and just sort of what that looks like from your trajectory from from college to transitioning into this field?
Yeah, my trajectory was very similar to Gordon, and I'm going to assume that it's very similar to most. I grew up with a passion for technology and engineering. I was very excited to be an electrical engineer and went to Syracuse University for electrical engineering. I spent about a year and a half to 2 years in that field and realized it wasn't as easy as it was for me when I was in high school. Everything was just so easy. It was easy to do homework. It was easy to get 100 on a test. And engineering was just very challenging, and I found it difficult to find support from the staff around engineering. So I tried to transition into IT, which was very easy for me. Again, IT is not finance. I ended up with my degree in IT, but I graduated into a financial crisis in 2009, 2008. So I was competing with many people who were much more experienced than I was. Um, and I just found a home in finance. And when I went into finance, I really enjoyed it because, again, it was something that I didn't know much about at the time. And I felt like if I learned more about it, I can help my family and friends along the way. So that's kind of why I went into finance. That's why I've been in it ever since.
Awesome. All right, I think I have the presentation ready. Is this it?
Perfect. Yep, that's
Awesome.
it.
Let me just get into presenter mode, slideshow. Awesome.
Okay, so this presentation is
Sorry.
frankly very similar to Gordon's when it comes to budgeting and just being prepared when you go into college and when you graduate high school. What I'll do is I'll get more granular in some areas that can add value to what Gordon was sharing. But I'll certainly rely a lot on your feedback and questions at the end. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So one thing I really wanted to share with you guys is the value of your paycheck. So first, I have a question for everyone. It's if you receive your full-time paycheck first time, you're excited. It's the first time you get some real money. What do you do? So here are some options here. You can just put a letter in the chat, and Ivana and Show will let me know kind of what the thoughts are across the room.
A lot of help my family. Love to
Yeah,
see
they're
that.
already coming in. Pay bills, save some
Travel.
of it. Yeah, so kind of across the board, but I definitely do see a lot of help my families, which I think speaks a lot to the students that we have in the room and just some of their priorities.
You guys are great. I remember when I received my first paycheck. I started working early on. I was 13 years old, and I went and I bought a gold chain. This shows how selfish I am. Versus you guys want to help your family and pay your bills. So I'm proud of everyone in the room. We can go on to the next slide. So one thing that surprised me is when you get a salary offer from your first job. Let's say I'm just going to use a random number just for the purpose of this talk. Let's say you get offered $80,000, right? You're thinking, great, I'm getting offered 80,000, and then you start doing calculations in your head. Maybe you go to the calculator, you divide that by 12. And it's like 6,700-ish a month. And you start building a budget based on that number. Like, oh,
I can make that work.
yeah, I can
Yeah,
afford this much money
right.
in rent. I could buy this car. I could start going to this gym that I really wanted to go to. What I really want to share is that salary number that you get offered versus the number that you actually take home. It's very, very different. Depends on what state you live in and what county you live in, what the expenses are in that place. For the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to use Los Angeles County, specifically downtown LA. So let's assume that you want to get a studio in downtown LA. Just off the bat, and I'm going to assume that you're not contributing to 401k, which you should be doing. But this is just bare bones. We're just trying to make it work. It's our first job. After your taxes, your health insurance, you could expect to receive around 5 grand a month. So you just lost about 1,700 bucks right there without even it hitting your bank account. And then you have expenses, right? And Gordon went over a lot of those expenses. Some of those are fixed, some of those are not. Big one in Los Angeles is going to be rent. Rent's going to cost like for a studio, realistically like 2,100 bucks a month. And let's say you have a streaming service, maybe you have Netflix, maybe you do some Uber Eats. You have to get a car because you can't really get around LA too well without one. You need car insurance, you need to pay for gas. All those things add up. I did a brief calculation. Um, with that salary of 80,000 living in downtown LA, if you're single and you're living in a studio, you would be left with about $180 a month. And that assumes that you're not contributing to a 401k, that you're not saving one penny. So you're literally living paycheck to paycheck. So all it takes is one accident, you get a flat tire, your car breaks down, your parents call you that they need some money, you want to help somebody out, and you can't because all you have is that $100 a month, and then you go into the red. Or even if you start putting money on a credit card, you don't manage that well, then you go into debt. So it's important to really sit down once you figure out what your finances are going to be in terms of how much money you're making and creating a budget. A budget helps you get realistic about what you can and can't do, and it helps you plan for your future.
I see a couple comments in the chat already saying I'm moving home after
Yeah, right.
roommates, and yeah, this is real. This LA is no joke. But
Yeah.
similar cities, it works for a lot of cities across the country. So thanks for um spelling that out to make it a little bit more clear.
And then this is just general skills in the workplace. When you first start your new job and you're going into the office, every interaction you have, people are judging you, whether you like it or not. They're taking that interaction, they're thinking about, can I work with this person? Is this person going to be a good person to work with on my team? And let's say you manage a team. The people that you manage are also giving feedback to the managers that manage you. So when you're in the workplace, you want to present your best self at all times. You want to be kind to people, even if you have a bad day. It's very easy to come into the office and something happened at home that was frustrating, and then you take that there, and then your day just kind of slumps. You want to put your best foot forward all the time. Um, what I like to do in my office is I build a repeatable process that I can kind of rely on when things are tough and there's a fire drill. So I know exactly what I need to do and what's expected of me. And that has definitely helped me grow in my career and also train my peers. Um, Another thing that I would do in terms of building your reputation is ask for mentorship. As I mentioned before, mentorship is not just in school, it's also in the workplace. And I even have mentors that have mentors. It's something that's important for your entire career, and they're going to really help you navigate through the difficulty of the corporate world or whatever job you end up being in. Even if you own a business, you can find another business owner that's been doing it longer than you have, and they can help you navigate past the pitfalls that many people experience.
I love that. Can I just note that I love that you brought up the part in terms of the the reputation that you're building and how you're weaving that into just like finance, because I think so often students think about like landing their first job and then like, okay, I made it, like that's it. But the goal is that you're going to keep increasing your salary, whether that's through promotions or moving on to another organization. So all of these steps like really make a huge difference. Like whether you're, let's say, Merrill Lynch as the example, that you want to stay at Merrill Lynch and climb the ladder within there, or if you
Yeah.
want to move on to another company. But it's so small, especially if you're staying in that field, that I can just imagine that your reputation precedes yourself in terms of the name that you build for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Mike, you definitely hit on another question that students were asking of besides salary, what else should I consider, right? About different offers, different jobs. So thanks for getting to the meat of other considerations, right, for folks.
absolutely. This is another interactive question. You can put your answers in the chat. The question is, your manager asks for help on a project outside of your job description. What do you do? So you go ahead and enter your answers in the chat, and I will say, based on experience, this happens very, very often. So I'm glad we can discuss it a little bit.
Yeah. I imagine also probably it's dependent, or I think it happens across the board, but definitely probably within field, it looks a little bit different. Like you would probably see that a little bit more working in finance or different us versus
Mhm.
us who might be in like nonprofit or in education, or if you're in another field.
I would
See
say
a
in
lot
any
of C
corporate
and D.
environment, this is going to be pretty common.
Yeah.
Yeah,
C and D. I
A
see
lot
a
of C and
B
D.
and I love that
Right,
on
I know.
B.
Bless everyone's hearts.
yeah,
But
that's great.
overwhelming C and D, Mike.
I'm proud of all of you. What I'll say is when your manager leans on you and asks you to do something that's outside of your job description, is because they see something in you that they don't see in others. And they're trying to give you an opportunity to prove yourself. And
Mm.
if you decline or say only if we can negotiate the salary and increase it a little bit, then they'll be polite and they'll say, oh, I understand, and they'll move on to the next person and they're going to focus on that next person and help them grow. So if you want to grow in your career, you want to get the next promotion, um, it's sometimes hard to stay a little bit later in the office or to do something completely outside of the role that you were hired to do. But it's important if you want to grow and you use those as learning opportunities. You could think of it as a mini internship. Like I'm going to take this opportunity on. I'm going to learn something that I didn't know yesterday. And when it comes up next time, maybe I can teach somebody else how to do it or give advice on how to make that process smoother for everybody when they're working through it.
Hmm.
It's called grit.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Um, this has to do with budget, and Gordon went a lot over this, so I'll make this very brief. Um, when we're going through our career, there's certain steps that you take in windfalls, and you start to earn more and more money. I will say that your first job, whatever it is, hopefully we're all blessed and we get a salary that we're happy with. It's going to be challenging to do the things that you want to do, to travel, to get the car that you want to get, to live in the house that you want to live in. And you're going to want to grind to get to that point where you feel more comfortable. And there can always be that grind of, hey, I want to do better. I want to get this bigger house. I want to get this nicer car. If you make that your lifestyle and that's the grind that you have and that's all you want to do, you're never going to be comfortable. You're never going to be relaxed. You're always going to be in debt. You're always going to be stressed out. So what I would say is once you get to a point where you feel comfortable, and that's different for everybody, just take a breather. Take a look at your budget. Be happy with what you have. Be content. And you can increase your lifestyle in different ways besides buying a bigger home and buying a nicer car. You can maybe go out to eat a little bit more. You can take a nicer vacation when you go on vacation. Next, I'll go into building credit, which I go back a slide.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're
Right
good.
here.
I'll go briefly
Oh,
into building credit, which it was very important to me, and I learned a lot about over the years. Credit is important. It will affect you in every aspect of your life. Whether you want to go into an apartment with a roommate, buy a car, even jobs will look at your credit as well. You have to build it carefully. It's very easy to mess up in the beginning. The advice that I'll give around that very briefly is go to your local bank. They have a lot of student credit cards. Typically, they'll give you like 500 bucks of a credit line, and just use it frequently. So stop using your debit card and use your credit card, but you're using it in the same way you use your debit card. So when you go to the grocery store with your debit card, you're not going to buy something that is more expensive than the money you have in your account because then it won't get approved. So I would use the same mentality with your credit card. So use it based on the money you have in your checking account. And what I do as I'm walking out of the grocery store, I'm making that payment so I don't forget to. So my credit card balance is always zero, but I'm using it frequently and paying it off frequently. And that will consistently and frequently build your credit over time. It takes time and it takes habits and it's very easy to ruin. But it's just something that you have to build a muscle for. You use your credit card, you pay it off, and over time you get benefits from your credit card. You can get many different rewards, which I won't go over right now, but it's a great thing to go into and to build. You can go to the next slide now.
I just want to address it, Mike, because a couple questions came up in terms of like signing bonuses on credit cards. I, I see Desenia noted that there are oftentimes like credit card like tables at like banks or like have tables like on
Yeah.
campus with like signing bonuses. So your thoughts on that? And she said, "Can I have multiple?" I think she means like, can I get like multiple credit cards because of the signing bonuses?
Yeah. So there are a lot of tables at campuses and at events that offer credit cards. Um, I would say that those are just sales presentations. I would get a credit card when it's right for you. I wouldn't get it because you saw a table. So when you're ready to have a credit card, meaning you have income and you can pay off the credit card. So if you're working and you have income, you can pay off the credit card. Then find a good signing bonus. All the banks offer signing bonuses. You can meet the spending requirements pretty easily. They're generally, I'm just using random numbers here. You spend $2,000 within 3 months, you get 300 bucks back. And that's great. But just make sure before you sign up for that credit card that you can spend $2,000 in 3 months and it's not going to overextend your budget. And if that fits within your budget, then go for it. And if you find another credit card that has a very similar offer 3 months later and you could afford to spend the $2,000 again and pay that off, go ahead. It's no problem having multiple credit cards. The problem is having multiple credit cards, spending more than what you have allowed in your budget, and not being able to pay them off. And then, so I'll get into the slide now. Build your professional and reputational reputation early. Um, what I find is when we have a lot of newer people coming into the office, they immediately ruin their reputation by coming in and making a promise and falling short. So, one saying that I always give my team is under promise and over deliver. It's very simple, but it's very
Mhm.
effective. You'll always get a wow from your team or your clients if that's what you do. And it's just a very good, consistent thing to live by. If you do say you're going to do something, get organized around it. So put it on your calendar, put reminders. Maybe put like a notes and Microsoft Word together. Um, Make sure you have a structure in place so that you're keeping yourself accountable, and then also keep your peers accountable as well. The people that sit next to you and the people on your team, like if you succeed together, you grow together. So it's important to do that. And if you do that and you do that consistently, um, everybody's going to notice that and look at you when it's time for promotion. So just as a mentor, and I've done mentoring for a number of years, and I received mentorship since my freshman year of high school. Um, I would say be curious, ask questions. If you're struggling, tell somebody. There's no reason why any of us has to suffer in silence. If you don't feel comfortable talking to your family, that's okay, but find somebody to ask for their advice and ask questions. Um, there's always resources and help out there if you look for it, but it's not going to look for you. I think Innovate Network is a great resource as well, where you can reach out to these wonderful ladies and ask for guidance if you need it. Um, but that's the biggest thing. Just be curious, ask questions, don't suffer in silence. If you find something that's challenging, there's going to be somebody that wants to help you and wants to see you succeed. And then this is just something that I found helpful in my career. And it's especially helpful once you're ready to start seeking internships and seeking your first job. But before the summer, I would say maybe in like January, February, March, jump on LinkedIn, uh, find a career that you want to get into, and start finding professionals in that career and message 20 of them. Find 20 different people that you want to reach out to. Maybe one or two will respond, and maybe one person will be open to meeting up for a coffee or to going on a Zoom and talking. And that person is going to be excited and engaged to help you succeed. That's a great way to get in. They can tell you kind of behind the door when internships are becoming available, what the hiring manager is looking for and what they're not looking for. And it just gives you a competitive edge that other people won't have. And they'll certainly refer you when that time comes as well, to make sure that you succeed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
That's
Sorry.
my pleasure.
I thank you for that. I think we're getting like a mix of questions in terms of like follow-ups. I think one that Gordon, if you're still there, I think it pertains to both of you, is we saw a lot of questions in terms of feeling overwhelmed and like how to even start approaching like this entire topic of just overall like financial responsibility. So any like words of like wisdom or advice that you have for students who like I think that there's so much for them to consider in terms of budgeting and investing and paying off debt and credit cards. So thank you so much for touching on all of these. But I think for some students who haven't, this is all new to them, excellent information, but I can see some of them might feel like a little overwhelmed. So where would you suggest in terms of like ground zero, like where should they start in terms of figuring out like a process or what they can start doing today or next week?
If it's okay, I'll go first and just make it simple. Pay yourself first. Go to a local bank, a local financial, and just say, "Hey, I'm establishing my savings account." And then once you get in the habit of routinely, hey, I'm putting $10 away, I'm putting, $20 away. But I think that's probably the easiest and simplest way about getting started is just getting in the habit of paying yourself first, even just a small amount.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. First, I'll say that that's a completely natural feeling to feel overwhelmed. I certainly felt overwhelmed growing up, and that's why I went into the career that I'm in now. Just at a very basic granular level, I would start by making sure that you have a checking and savings account at the bank. If you don't already have that, go to the bank, open a checking and savings account. Um, Keep yourself honest. If you have income, even if it's an allowance, start budgeting off of that. Take a portion of that, put it in your savings account. Take a portion of that to get your Uber Eats, but just keep yourself honest and responsible over the money that you have coming in. And as that money grows, if you are consistent with that budget, you'll be rewarded in spades in the future. Gordon went over extensively on compounding interest and how important that is. And I would say absolutely. If you do have some extra money, um, I would definitely recommend investing. That's what I do. And I do echo his opinion on the S&P 500. I would just say to find a mutual fund that invests across the market that has low expenses. SPY is one of them, VTSAX. There's a lot of index funds that you can invest in that have low costs and grow over time. And the biggest advice for investing is, I would say, is time in the market, not timing the market. So the longer you keep it in there and you don't touch it, the better off you are.
Hmm.
Thank you so much. And I know that we had someone drop off, but I love their comment right before they did was, thank you so much, Gordon and Mike, for keeping it real. I just went to my college orientation and financial aid spoke about to us, and it was not like this. So thank you so much to both of you for your really great advice for not just habits that students can build, but right, like resources and really defining some of these areas and things that, I think Mike said it, we stay in the dark too long sometimes. So
Yeah.
thank you for giving our students a space. As usual, folks, we have our survey that we will send out to be able to share with, our partners and again, be able to hear from you guys how you like the session and what are some great habits that we're going to take away from this. Um, Also, as Cheryl said in the beginning, we recorded this session, so please, please, please share within your communities. This is definitely the kind of session that we want to see folks not only subscribe, but also share within your network so that we can all get stronger.
And all of our sessions are posted to that YouTube channel. So not only will we email this out for everyone who registered, but you can join our YouTube channel and see all this recording and ones from earlier this summer. But appreciate you all for being here on a Friday morning or afternoon, whether you're West or East Coast. And we will catch you at the next session. So have a great weekend and thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Thank
folks.
you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Sean.
Have a good
Thanks,
weekend.
Gordon. Thanks, Mike.
Certainly.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.